Hey everyone, welcome to KSSP Podcast. I'm Spencer.
And I'm Katie. Today, we're just going to be kind of giving our final thoughts on the concept of laziness. So, I'm going to get us started here. The capitalist way of thinking makes us think that our bodies are commodities to be used for profit. However, this is an unhealthy mindset to have, as it causes high levels of stress for anyone who's not living up to their own expectations of this. Our bodies should not be commodities, but rather tools we use ourselves and that we care for. We should be free to form our mindsets and ultimately our lives outside of economics. Yes, maintaining the economy is important, but it's not the only goal we should have as human beings.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I don't personally believe in laziness. For me, it's hard for me to believe that if someone wasn't struggling, either with a mental illness or not feeling like they have control in their life due to living in a capitalist society where a majority of the people suffer while the top excel, that people would still choose to sit around 24/7 and watch TV, or the typical trope of what people consider as laziness. Because I personally, if somebody wants to sit around and watch TV 24/7, I don't have a problem with that. I wouldn't even consider that lazy if it wasn't affecting their rest of their life, I guess. To me, then that just becomes more of, are they suffering from an addiction, mental illness, or something like that, rather than them just being like, I just do not like the term lazy, because I feel like people use it to, in a derogatory way, to excuse, or just like not to help people. They don't use it to help people. They use it to hurt people. And instead of being like, oh, that person's lazy, maybe we should figure out what's going on and how we can help them. They're like, oh, that person's lazy. They just don't deserve the same rights I do, and they are less than me. And I just cannot get on board with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, the judgment doesn't help anybody. Like, you have
Mm-hmm.
to find the root of the problem if you want anything to change. You can't shame people into changing, just in general. Like, shaming people into changing doesn't work. It's not healthy and it's not productive. You need to find the root of the problem. And for me, as far as laziness go, like, I do think there are a small minority of people who are lazy, in the sense that they purposely avoid doing things because they know others are going to pick up the slack for them. And I think the way we commonly think of laziness is outdated and wrong. Laziness is procrastination more than anything else, and this can be attributed to a wide variety of factors that are difficult or even impossible to control. And the fact is that a large majority of people want to contribute as much as possible to society, as it inherently gives us satisfaction to do so. And this is because humans are social creatures, and cognitive social creatures need social interaction and influence to feel satisfied with their lives.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I guess I see it more as like a manipulation tactic than laziness, but I see definitely what you're saying. They are, because they know they'll get away with it. Like
Yeah.
they are like, I am going to have this other person do more work because I know I can get away with it. But it still is a laziness for sure. But I just don't like the term lazy, but
Yeah.
I see what you are saying there for sure. And then just from some things that I thought of while we were going over like our other videos was definitely situational barriers. I think those are important to take into consideration when, like how we mentioned, describing people as lazy. There's a whole list of reasons, and you need to figure out the root of the issue, I guess, is what it really comes down to for me. You can't just go around calling someone lazy and then judging them for that without trying to understand their perspective. And that is also where, to me, it comes in. Like if I were to, and this is my own personal bias, but I personally would not be happy sitting down and watching TV 24/7. If I had all my basic needs met and could do whatever I wanted, chase whatever dreams I had, that would not be one of my dreams.
Yeah.
But if that is someone's dream, that's okay. I would never judge someone for that. But I just feel like more people have dreams, and like, or things that they want to do. Maybe not even dreams as big as dreams, but just things that they would do if they had the time Whereas, because when I was a nurse and during COVID, I was working 4 or 5 12-hour shifts a week. So, what did I do on my 2 to 3 days off? Well, I sat and watched TV all day. But that's mainly because I was overworking myself. I shouldn't have been doing that. And it also came down to the fact that that's what I mean, granted, that part was rest. Part of that was rest, and that's okay. So the rest is okay too. We have to understand that rest is okay, as we've mentioned. But it came down to like I wasn't. It's not what I wanted my life to be, but I also felt trapped because I need a job. I need money. We live in a society where I can't necessarily chase my dreams or my passions or what I truly want to do in life if they're not bringing me money, or at least that's like the common belief in our society, you know.
Yeah.
And so I guess to me, what I would use watching TV for is because I felt it was impossible to achieve what I wanted rather than putting in minimal, the little bit of time that maybe I did have, like maybe an hour a day towards maybe what I want to achieve because it didn't feel worth it either, you know? So I feel like that's an aspect too, because it's like, well, if I want to maybe write a book, I'll like with in this capitalist society, I only have an hour a day, if even, and maybe an hour a month to take time to write this book. And that's going to take eons, or it feels like it'll take ages.
Yeah.
So then it feels like it's not even worth it. Because then will I even ever finish it? Will it? And then if I finish it, will I have time to edit it after that? You know, like so that
Yeah.
aspect to me would always come into play. So I just
Yes.
so it's hard for me to put myself into the shoes of somebody who actually is quote unquote lazy and wants to watch because I feel like people have things that they want to do in life.
Yes.
It's just hard to do those things. And then with that, I also know that we were talking about motivation with ADHD. And I guess I agree with that because I don't like the lack. But what I was wondering with that for you, my question to you was
Yeah.
because you know how they use lack of, and you didn't like that
Right.
terminology. And I agree with that. Like, I don't like necessarily the lack of in the sense that they're saying we have the lack of motivation if it's our interest, but would you agree that maybe we have a lack of motivation to do those boring tasks?
Um, yeah, I guess it depends what the boring task is and how important it is. Because I think while we do prioritize interest over importance, that doesn't mean that we don't categorize importance of things. So I think it just depends on how important the task is to you, in terms of motivation. Now, whether you actually do it or not, like I said, will depend more on interest than importance. But like it's important to note that we still do hold things, like we still do have a hierarchy of priorities and what's important to us. So I just don't like the term lack of motivation because it's not that the motivation isn't there, like we want to do it, but at the same time, because we don't have the interest, it's more of a lack of interest than a lack of motivation, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I would. Yeah, I think that I would agree with that too. Because I think it is the lack of interest, which then people can be like, well, then obviously you're not going to be motivated to do things that you aren't interested in. But some of it comes down to the fact that we know we have to do it.
Right.
So we still do it. We just don't do it how other people do it. Because I guess I would
Exactly.
maybe argue that who likes to do laundry? A lot of people probably don't like to do laundry,
Yeah.
but they have more of, I don't even want to say drive, but it's just easier for them to do those. I don't know why interests
Yeah.
play a
And
huge like role in ADHD per se, and not in like a good or bad way. It's just a
that's just the way it is.
thing. Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember that, like, interest and importance are two different things, but they both are still present in ADHD. They're just ranked differently than in the neurotypical brain, where importance takes over interest most of the time.
in, in ADHD.
In the neurotypical brain, the importance takes.
Oh, okay, yeah. Um, yeah, I guess yeah. So I also don't think lack of motivation is really the appropriate way, personally, in my opinion,
Yeah.
to define it either. Um, because it's also because I also feel like that term lack of motivation insinuates laziness,
Yeah.
and it's not with ADHD. It's not a choice either. We don't choose to prioritize interests over importance either. Like that's not a choice, you
Right.
know? Like I feel like it may seem like a choice because they can be like, "Oh, well, you are choosing to draw versus doing your laundry," but it isn't like it's not as easy as just being like it's a choice, you know? You know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say? It's
Oh,
hard
I
to
know what
explain,
you
but
mean.
it's not a choice. Like
Right.
we're not intentionally choosing to prioritize interests over importance. That is not an intentional decision. It is just
Right.
the way the brain functions.
Exactly. It's just the way it's wired.
Yes. So then another thing I thought was interesting when we were going over them was just that existential crisis and just our society, because I feel like that plays a big role in why I have a hard time believing that laziness exists, because
Mhm.
it's hard to we don't really have any up like in your jobs you may not have upward mobility, as we talked about with like wage slavery. So you again don't have to me it again boils down to like, why would I do anything other than like lounge around? And like, but rest is important, so I'm not trying to diminish rest. I'm just saying that if we had our basic needs met, people would still rest, and we should still rest. Rest is important, but I don't think people would like, some people just have this un or this um they have this, what am I trying to how am I what word am I whatever, they have this fear that if we have our basic needs met, that a majority of society is gonna like do nothing Monday through Sunday. And I disagree with that fear. I think it is irrational, because most of society does like to be productive in different ways, and everybody's way is important to a productive society, but most people like to be productive. People are not just going to not do things if we have our base. There may be some. I'm not going to say
Yeah.
there wouldn't be some people, but then we have to understand, like, look at their perspective and try
Right.
to understand why,
And it's
because
not,
then there may be a reason, an underlying reason why.
yeah. And like, it's not only profit driven productivity either. There's all kinds of productivity.
Yes. And then when we were going over technology, I just personally feel that technology will actually help with innovation by freeing up time, because my friends and I, a while ago, were having a debate argument about, I think it was Roombas and like electric lawnmowers, because I was like, why would it? Like, I think the government should provide everyone with a Roomba and electric lawnmower, because why should people have to mow their lawn? And then they were telling me that, well, that's going to make people lazy. And I just, we very much disagreed, because to
Mhm.
me, I don't think that vacuuming your floors is necessary. If we can have the technology that can do that for us, I don't think that's going to lead to laziness. I think personally that will free up time for people to be more creative and give them more time to potentially come up with new innovation and technology or whatever it is. And to me, that is important. And the other thing about that to me is it's okay for life to get easier. It should. Life should be getting easier as we evolve as a society. It shouldn't get harder, or it shouldn't stay the same either. And just overall with technology, for me, I personally believe the benefits will outweigh the negatives. And I understand that there are negatives, and we can definitely address those and how we can address those, but I don't think that we should prevent progress in the name of the negative, like just because there are potential negative side effects or negative things that can come along with progress and technology making life easier. I don't think we should not progress due to those.
Right. And I just have one other thing I wanted to mention about this too. We didn't really talk about this in the other videos, but I'm just gonna bring it up now, about my opinion. Like, and I might be a little biased here, obviously, but Like overweight people are often thought of as lazy, but people can be overweight for a wide variety of reasons, including lack of time or resources to exercise, medical conditions or medications, and genetics. And we shouldn't really judge people based on their appearance, anyways. We should just judge them based on what they're contributing to the world and what they're going to contribute to the world, potentially. So
Yeah.
I had a couple questions for you. I'll just ask them all at once because they kind of go together. Like, have you ever thought you were lazy? How did that make you feel, and why did you feel that way?
So I guess that's a hard. So I've never thought of myself as lazy, but I do feel that others may perceive me as lazy, and I think that's also why I had such a strong a reaction when my friends and I were having that discussion is because obviously I like a Roomba. I would easily buy a robot lawnmower because why wouldn't I?
Right.
So to me, when they were saying that that makes you lazy, like I took it as a personal attack, and like obviously I know it wasn't, but I couldn't help that I was taking that as a personal attack because to me, I am more of a I like I like to do things that require mental activity versus physical activity, and I feel like sometimes that can be seen as lazy. Like
Yeah.
I would rather sit and write a story or draw or research or do things that aren't necessarily physical. And I feel like a lot of times people, because obviously when I'm doing that, I'm going to be potentially sitting down on a desk or compute or like on a computer, and I feel like people could see that and then be like, oh, well, he's just lazy because he doesn't want to do any physical thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or sometimes when I was working so much and taking those days off to just rest, I would just lounge around the house and watch TV. And I feel like that could be perceived as lazy too. But
Yeah.
I personally have never felt so I don't think I'm lazy, but I think others from the outside looking in could perceive me as lazy. And obviously that hurts because like we all contribute to society, whether people
Yeah.
want to see that or not. Um,
Right.
we're all important too. Even to me, the person who maybe does just want to watch TV 24/7, they're still important. They don't matter any less or more than I do.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's important for people to understand because we're all important, whether and that's why I hate the term lazy too because people use it derogatorily
Yeah.
as if they're better than the other person, but in my opinion, you are worse than the other person when you call them lazy.
Yeah. Because you're judging them for something that, has a lot of systemic and root issues that need to be
Yes.
solved.
And honestly, to me, it if you're gonna go around calling someone lazy because they want to watch TV all day, you're just jealous that they can do that. Because
Right.
when I see somebody watching TV all day, I don't go around being like, "Oh, they're so lazy." Oh, they're so. Because why? Why? I don't care. They're
Yeah.
doing what they want to do. I'm doing what I want to do. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like,
I completely agree.
it's just so frustrating because
Yeah.
there's no
As
no.
long as they're not like leeching off of other people to get their needs met, then I'm fine with it. Like as long as they're getting their own needs met, then that's cool. I don't care if you watch TV all day.
Yes.
It's just a problem when like you're forcing someone to have you rely on them. That's when it's a problem.
Yeah. No. That's and
Like
to
if you're
me,
not doing that, if you're just single person living at your own apartment and watching TV all day, like that's cool with me. I don't really care.
and I guess I always wonder why would you care if
Yeah.
they're as long as they're not leeching off of people. But to me, that becomes more of like manipulation and
Yeah.
to me, I don't really like. That's why I don't really personally just consider that lazy because they're doing that like evilly, intentionally. They're not
Right.
necessarily doing it because they want to be lazy per se. They're doing it because they know they can get away with it. Like if
Yeah.
people stopped helping them with their basic need, like not in the way, because I feel like a lot of people think about that with like government assistance programs. Like they think the people in
Yeah.
government assistance programs are lazy, but some of them are. I'm not going to say that some of them aren't necessarily maybe using that to their advantage, and but also like we don't. I feel we'll talk about it, or we did. I guess technically we would have by this, but we don't fund those programs. The government funds its own programs. If it's a federal assistance program, taxes aren't funding it. So you are not funding that lazy person. The government is. So that's irrelevant either way because we're not funding that. But then there could be, and I'm assuming a majority of those people probably have mental comorbid mental health issues that we need
Oh
to
yeah.
address. It isn't as simple as someone just is taking advantage of the system, you know.
Oh yeah. There's so many people out there who have undiagnosed mental health issues, whether it's just a lack of access or a lack of knowledge, you know. Like there's all kinds of different reasons why people don't get adequate mental health care that they need.
Yes, it's a very nuanced. And I
Yes.
think when people define it as the term lazy, they just ignore all that nuance, and that upsets me because it's it's just really annoying because all it is an attempt to, it's kind of like when we talked about cults, when we talked about homeless people, they're just trying to build an us versus them mentality in a way, and I don't like that. I don't think that is constructive to society. I don't think that's going to help us evolve as a society. I don't think that's going to help anything because when you're going around calling people lazy, okay, well, what do we do about it? Like, are you just going to go around call them lazy and then say that they should be locked up or kicked out of America? Like, what's your solution?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
that's what I just hate people. Not people. I just hate when people do that because
Yeah. Well, you know
there's
what their
we need to
solution.
have a solution. You can't go around whining about things without having a solution. In
Right.
my
Like,
at least, and it doesn't have to be a full thought out solution, and whining is fine. I'm not going to say we can't, like we can vent and whine every once in a while, but if you're going to go around constantly complaining about laziness, then come up with a solution, because
right.
I'll listen to you once and I'll be there for to listen to you for once when you want to complain about it. But if you literally keep harking the same issues over and over but don't offer solutions, then I'm not going to listen anymore.
Yeah, well, and then their solution is, oh, that person just needs to fix it themselves when there's so many like systemic issues and situational issues that are like out of their control that we need to fix as a society.
Yes, and especially if it is like a mental health thing, you
Yeah,
can't you can you can't just fix a mental health issue. But also, yes, the systemic issues, you can't just fix those yourself either. That is going
right,
to take a systemic change to
right.
address those.
We need systemic change in the government and then systemic change in our medical care system where we can provide that mental health medical care to the people who need it.
Yes, definitely. So that is definitely why I have always had a very disdain
Yeah,
towards the word laziness, because I just don't like when people go around using derogatory terms, obviously, but then going around using those derogatory terms without coming up with solutions to fix what clearly they think is an issue. Because clearly, if someone is going around complaining about laziness, then they must think it's an issue. So
right.
let's think of ways to solve it.
Exactly.
But yes, I think
Yeah.
that's my thoughts on laziness.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. So you guys can leave a comment below letting us know what topics you want us to cover in future episodes.
You can reach out to us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and we occasionally do Twitch live streams, so watch out for us there.
And don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you know when we do. Otherwise, we will see everyone next time.